Are you ready to stop stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem from running your life? Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann Schaub from Empowerment Radio as he addresses some of the most prevailing challenges in our day-to-day lives. Find out how you can use the power of your mind to overcome self-sabotaging patterns and build a solid foundation of confidence and self-respect. Learn cutting-edge tools and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. This is the time to empower yourself. Now, here's your host, Dr. Friedemann Schaub.
And I'm so used to saying this is another Wednesday, but we are actually now on Thursdays on Empowerment Radio. New time, new date, and that also means that some of you may not really know me, may not have ever heard about me. So I'll just gonna make a brief introduction so that you are caught up with who is this guy talking about empowerment. Well, my name is Dr. Friedemann Schaub, and I started out with a lot of anxiety in my life and also a lot of trouble with confidence and self-esteem. In order to compensate for that, I just thought, let's just achieve and overachieve. And that didn't get me necessarily to the place I wanted to be, but it got me into medicine. And so I became a physician specializing in cardiology. Then I switched also into research in molecular biology. And all of those things were wonderful, but they had something missing for me. Now, cardiology and medicine in general really taught me a lot about what's wrong with the body, how it needs our help, how it really is somehow, a little flawed. Then molecular biology showed me the opposite, that we have really infinite potential inside of us, and that we do have also just daily miracles happening that we don't even notice, that we're not even aware of. I always remember this one client of mine who basically worked like a dog, but all he ate were Twinkies and Diet Coke, and he still survived, and he still was being able to do this physical work. It's amazing. How did the body do this? How did the body extract from almost nothing something to still function on a high level? And molecular biology also showed me that this potential inside of us is waiting to be unleashed. But unfortunately, there is one force that can often suppress our potential to heal ourselves, our potential to adapt, to change, which is stress. Now, we all have certain kind of stressors in our life, and stress is, in some ways, you could say, more a symptom. Stress is something that just is, for many, a chronic form of existence. But when you do have chronic stress, and that means also that you have a tension inside of you, a tension that when you are approaching the day leads to physical symptoms. It can lead to high blood pressure, it can lead to cholesterol going up, can lead to heart problems. In fact, stress is, if you have it chronically, the equivalent of smoking 5 cigarettes a day when it comes to heart issues. So stress is certainly something that can create a lot of problems. Now, what is stress, or what is causing stress? That's the question that I was asking myself more than 15 years ago. Is it that we just have beliefs that cause us, just like myself, to push ourselves hard because we somehow are afraid of failing or afraid of not being good enough? Do we have in general a sense of anxiety because we don't feel safe, because somehow we don't trust anyone? Do we feel out of control and we feel we have to micromanage every detail in life in order to gain a sense of peace? Do we feel like we have to constantly please others or prove ourselves to others to get a sense of belonging and a sense of worthiness? These are just a few examples of deeper root causes of stress. And so I decided that rather than giving people, patients, a pill to somehow suppress the symptoms or deal with the aftermath, why not going directly to where it all starts and help people overcome the stress and the anxiety and the insecurity and all those issues they have been dealing with. So I started a breakthrough program that uses the mind in its entirety. So we're talking about conscious mind, subconscious mind, and if you want the higher consciousness as well, which helps you just to change more profoundly and also faster, because you really use all the aspects of your mind to overcome and outgrow stress. And after helping thousands of people, I wrote a book which is called The Fear and Anxiety Solution. And there is a step-by-step process laid out for you to really work consciously with your subconscious to overcome fear, anxiety, stress, and other challenges. And I, of course, still work with clients in one-on-one sessions and breakthrough programs. So that's now Empowerment Radio started, I don't know how many years ago. I'm certainly with Dr. Pat and Transformation Talk Radio for a long time now. And Empowerment Radio is basically all about, the day-to-day obstacles we are all facing. You know, those things we are challenged by, those little, nagging issues, the pebbles in our shoes, and sometimes these complete overwhelming issues. This can be loneliness. This can be a broken heart. This can be overwhelmed. This can be dealing with kids. This can be dealing with that sense of not really knowing what to believe in, limiting beliefs, you name it. And Empowerment Radio always is shedding some light on those things that we rather want to avoid or not think about than really dealing with them. And so today is also one of those fundamental issues that I have been struggling with, and so many are struggling with, that sometimes we are just pretending we don't have to deal with or we have no issue with, but deep down inside we actually do, which is confidence. Now, confidence is something that was staring in my face since a week about, in the form of a beautiful, beautiful horse. So we have horses, and I just got a new horse. Just fell in my lap somehow. And that horse is called Gold. And he is just magnificent. As a human, he would be like a very tanned Rod Stewart, because he has really blonde hair and a mane that's to die for, and very, very dark brown coat, and just amazing. But, horses don't necessarily know that they are pretty, but he has a confidence, which I just love. He's very young, so he came here into the group of horses we have, and he wasn't shy. He wasn't sitting in a corner, sucking his thumbs and wondering, do they like me or not? He wasn't domineering and trying to control everyone because, now I'm the new kid on the block, so I have to bully everyone. He was just showing up and, hey, look at me. I'm here. Like me. And then he was playful and he was curious. And so the whole group of horses was immediately enamored by that kind of level of self-esteem that he brought with him. And since ever then, he just is integrated faster than I saw any other horse being integrated. And that was just really fascinating to see how this can happen through that openness and that self-confidence that was more about connecting than separating oneself. So I found, that Gold has been an inspiration for today's show, which is about confidence. Now, hand on your heart, what do you think about your confidence level? Is it perfect? Could it go up a little bit? Do you need a boost? Well, if that's the case, you have tuned into the right show. Now, imagine for a moment that you have this power, this confidence just inside of you. But then somehow people tell you, well, you shouldn't really feel confident because other people may feel bad because you're so confident. Or maybe some people see you as arrogant and no one wants to be seen as arrogant. Or maybe some people say, what are your confidence? What's your confidence about? You're not that great. You're not that tall. You're not that smart. You're not that good looking. And so they kind of push you down. And with that, your confidence. Or maybe you had the feeling that confidence is also risky because it makes you more seen, it makes you more visible, and that in itself felt a little scary. Whatever it is, confidence is usually something we are born with. Yes, and I believe that because I have seen many babies and I delivered a few of them and felt, how is it that you are as a baby just coming out of the womb, screaming and yelling out of, just like bloody murder. And then as soon as something doesn't really fit well, you have the confidence to tell everyone about that. You have the confidence to eventually move out of this laying down position into more crawling and then sitting up and then standing up. You have the confidence to learn to express yourself through words. You have the confidence to eventually be able to feed yourself. There's a lot of stuff that happens early on that we do fairly quick. And it requires for us to have a belief in ourselves that we can do it. Just a natural state that says, of course, I can go beyond those limitations. Of course, I can go out of this miserable place of being completely dependent and learn to be more independent. My point is that it's not a matter of buying confidence, and there's still no pill for that, or building confidence from scratch. Somewhere it is inside of us, and somewhere we are losing that confidence. And so today we will talk about how to unearth this confidence that's inside of us, how to prevent it from going away again, or we losing sight on it, and how to boost our confidence in general. We will be right back after the break. Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. We are talking about confidence and ways to boost your confidence. Now, when you have no confidence, you probably know how challenging it can be to go through life. When I was struggling with confidence, I certainly was somehow trying to make myself feel better. And usually we go into those modes of getting confidence through external identifications. We are identifying ourselves with our achievements, or with our car, or with our jobs, or with our spouses, everything that is basically not us, which makes us feel better about ourselves because somehow we don't believe that we are enough, but it also makes us dependent on that external way of seeing our confidence attached to whatever it is that we think we should be. I attended once a talk with Neil Donald Walsh, who is the author of Conversations with God. And he said there was a time in his life that he had identified himself with his hair. Now, he has beautiful hair, I have to say. If I would identify myself with my hair, my confidence wouldn't really get boosted. I have hair, that's good, but that's pretty much it. But he was lucky, so he had to realize at some point, well, even if he likes his hair, it's not really all of who he is. So really the first step of building confidence is reminding yourself that you are a unique individual. No one is there like you. And there is an inherent goodness inside of you. There's something inside of you that is so unique and that is here for a reason, that needs to be expressed, that no one can replace you. You have, just like the stars in the sky, every star has its place. Every little piece on the mosaic or in a puzzle belongs there. We all have our places. We all have a reason to be here. And we all belong into the places where we are. And we all have a contribution to make. So if we agree all on that, then we also know that the confidence inside of us is simply the belief that we matter. the belief in that truth in ourselves that doesn't need to be defined by a color, a size, a word, by a job description. It's simply there. I know sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around it because we are so used to poking holes in our confidence that just this first step of affirming that we can have confidence, that we can believe in ourselves, that we can embrace ourselves, seems like jumping across Grand Canyon. But the truth is, this is the first step, and this is an important step, and it really starts with affirming this every day. It's like making a choice. How do I want to go into this day? Head down, shoulders slumping, feeling bad about myself? Or do I want to go into this day like gold on the prairie, just knowing, hey, here I am, I'm enough. And so the affirmation that I like to teach my clients and I'm using as well is an affirmation of self-love, an affirmation of self-appreciation, an affirmation of self-belief. And it simply goes like this: I love, appreciate, and believe in myself. I am enough. If you are repeating this every day, now keep in mind at the beginning it may be just words and you feel like, well, it doesn't really sink in. But eventually, as you go through more steps of building your confidence, of remembering your confidence, remembering your self-esteem and your worthiness, you will feel that these words resonate and that there is a vibration with those words that make you feel also more and more connected to yourself every day. Confidence and confiding are related to each other. Now, who do we confide in? We confide in someone we trust. We confide in someone we really believe we care about, who has our best interest in mind, who loves us, who appreciates us, a friend. And so if you see building your confidence, boosting your self-esteem also as a way to become your best friend and treating yourself accordingly, then you also see like, well, I already know how to do this for someone else. I just need to learn to do this treatment of a friend for myself. So I love, appreciate, and believe in myself. I am enough. That is the first step. Just use that affirmation. The second step is avoiding, stopping, preventing yourself from constantly undermining your confidence. Now, I'm a master in this, and I was certainly even better at that. But one of the things I used to do for some reason diligently was comparing myself with others. Even others that were far away, I didn't really have anything to do with, but somehow I knew from the past. At times I Googled them and wanted to know, what are they doing? What's their life about? And insane. And it was really uncomfortable because, of course, you don't find pleasure in someone having really a hardship. That doesn't really build your confidence. That doesn't make you feel better if you see that, they're struggling or out of work or maybe even ill. But of course, it doesn't help your confidence either when you're looking at those people that are seemingly better, have more success, have more money, have reached higher than you. And it's all crazy. But that is something we do over and over again. So when you notice that you compare yourself to others, then you could say, well, going back to confidence as a way to trusting yourself and relying on yourself as a friend. Well, would you be with a friend and then look over your shoulders and wonder, well, maybe this would be a better friend, or maybe that friend over there is more interesting? Probably not. So try to use also your intention to be your supporter and build that trust in yourself through stopping to compare yourself to others. At the end, no one can really be compared to, because we are all unique, and no one is really, it's not a race. No one needs to be your measuring stick to live up to. You need to reach as high as you choose to, and not like as others have been. And the same thing is also with giving your confidence away through other people's judgment. It's not only that we are judging ourselves, it's also that we get judged. And we are told or shown that we are not really that great, or that we are not really that interesting, or that we cannot really meet whatever's expectations we are not meeting. And that also undermines our confidence. And we do believe, and that is something that's very common, that somehow others know us better than we know ourselves, that others have more right to say whether we are fitting in or whether we are acceptable than we ourselves, which is, again, a little bit crazy, because if you are with someone from the very first moment you take a breath until the last, if you spend every second with that person, you know that person better than anyone else. You know that person's strengths, you know that person's weaknesses, you know the secrets, you know the successes, you know the hardships, you know everything. So how can anyone else judge you when you know yourself better than them? So remind yourself of that. And again, don't try to give other people's opinions more weight than your own. And the other side of the coin, which, again, something I was very good at, was trying to get other people's approval in order to feel confident, in order to feel better about yourself. That is, again, something where we are losing confidence because we cannot really control how other people think about us. We cannot really be in their heads and turn their heads in our favor. So somehow we're always dependent, and somehow we always will be in a place of that uncertainty. When I was working in this cardiology hospital at the university in Germany, in Munich, my boss was someone who certainly had a temper. And sometimes he was in a good mood, and sometimes he was in a bad mood. And depending on how he was friendly or he was highly critical. And for me, as someone who was looking for approval to build confidence, I certainly went with him on a roller coaster of his emotions. Sometimes I felt totally distraught because he was judging me. Sometimes I felt elated on, cloud whatever, because I felt that, he appreciates me. But at the end, you feel always empty. You feel always that there is something missing inside of you, because it's fleeting. It's a fleeting sense of feeling good, and it's a much deeper sense of feeling lost when you try to get confidence through getting other people's approval. Now, another way of building confidence, we have the affirmation, we have that not undermining your confidence. Now, another way, and I mentioned it at the beginning, is really going back to the natural innate confidence that you had. So for that, I often go back into my childhood. I just think about it. And my childhood wasn't necessarily the nicest and the prettiest. There were great things and there were hard things. But I look at myself, and I look at myself at that time before I lost my innocence. And what I mean with that, that natural confidence I talked about with my horse, there was something inside of me, and I think there is something inside of all of us that is really just happy or open to be here. And I was, as I often was told, happy-go-lucky kid who just loved to run around and explore and didn't have a care in the world and could just make out of any situation the game. And life was magical, was beautiful. And then at some point, I felt expectations, I felt pressure, I felt fighting between my parents, and it came all somehow crashing down. And those were those times where I lost my innocence. I lost that connection to my natural sense of safety, of enoughness, of I'm okay. So I go back in my mind to those early days, as far as I can remember, and just think about how good that felt and how natural it was to go through life and just feel that everything is fine and everything will be fine, and to be able to appreciate the little moments, and to be able to also just know that, yeah, I belong here. And of course, I can show up. And of course, I can be funny. And of course, I can speak up. And it was a wonderful time. And I think we still have this inside of us. And we just need to sometimes go back through little visualizations, through going through your photo album, through maybe talking to your siblings and getting more in touch with that original self, and remembering, what was that like? What was my confidence there, my belief in my goodness, and how did I express it? When we come back, we will talk more about confidence and unique ways of building it. So stay tuned. How is your confidence level now? Do you feel it's getting a little higher? Do you feel a little better? Now, don't confuse confidence with what I was told confidence is, which is being full of yourself. That's not really confidence. Confidence is really just feeling good, naturally connected to yourself, naturally feeling that belief, and ideally that love for yourself. And that doesn't mean that you tell yourself you're better than anyone. Doesn't mean that you have hubris and feeling like, you can do everything. Doesn't mean that you are isolating yourself because somehow you're above everyone. It just means that you find your home inside of yourself. And that doesn't depend necessarily on what your life looks like. Again, we don't need to find confidence through the external circumstances we are in. In fact, maybe sometimes we have to realize, despite our external circumstances, the fact that we are still here, the fact that we are still moving forward, the fact that we are still doing the best we can, that should give us confidence, that should really boost us, because we can rely on ourselves. Now, one thing that is really important about that connecting to that confidence is that you need to learn that you are trustworthy and that you can really rely on yourself. And what I mean with that is really that your word matters to yourself. And that is one of those amazing confidence boosters if you follow through, and it's a huge poking of holes in your confidence when you don't. How many times do we say to ourselves, especially procrastinators in this world, that we're going to do it today or do it tomorrow, and then of course we ignore the alarm, or we don't follow through, or we find excuses, and we are eventually realizing that, yeah, what we are saying is basically a lie. We don't really trust our word. We don't believe in what we're saying, and therefore we don't really have that confidence that whatever we intend to do, we at least try to accomplish it. We don't have to always succeed. Sometimes the greatest confidence comes from realizing when we have failed and still saying, good, I did my best. Now I can learn something from it. Maybe there is a better approach, or maybe this is not for me, or maybe humble pie is also something that is actually building a connection to myself, because I can build compassion, self-compassion, which is a wonderful addition to confidence. But you need to learn to trust yourself. So watch yourself in the next few days, how many times you may be tempted to tell yourself something that you know you probably won't do. How many times you have an intention that you probably don't follow through. How many times you may lie to yourself, or even lie to others, making stories up, embellishing, or frankly, just saying something that you know is not true just to save face. So that's one way to undermine your confidence and feel, ashamed of yourself, feel somehow empty inside of you. Now we have a caller calling in, and Carter, I believe it's Arch. Is that right?
Yep, we have Arch from San Diego. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Arch.
Hi there.
Hello, Dr. Friedemann.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
Thank you very well. Thank you. Well, actually, Arch, I asked Arch to call in because Arch is a wonderful example of what the lack of confidence can cause you to feel and experience. And when you find your confidence, how it not only changes how you feel about yourself, but how it also changes your whole life. And so, Art, tell us a little bit about your challenges with confidence, and the cousin of confidence is anxiety, and what happened.
Yeah, it was very much focused on on pleasing everybody else around me in order to find my own sense of worth or place in the world. And didn't really recognize that. It took me 50 years of living to recognize that through working with you specifically. But in doing so, was able to unearth why that was and how that came to be. And it doesn't mean that all of that magically disappears. It simply means that you have an awareness and an acceptance to it, and the tools in which to understand it. And I think one of the most profound things that we unearthed was that shifted focus from purpose to purpose from performance, and how living a life performance based is very, very egoic. And when we do things to please others, we leave out the most important being in that equation, and that is ourselves. And I believe working with you introduced me back to myself. That you talked about, if you go back as far as you can remember before you, quote, lose the innocence, that's who we all need to get reintroduced to. And I think that's what you and I did.
Right. Now, I think, one of the things that I find so fascinating about your story is that you were a high achiever. I mean, you were someone who did multiple triathlons. I mean, the big guys, the long ones, the Ironman. You were extremely successful at your work. You had, made several creative endeavors at your workplace, but no matter how much you achieved, your confidence didn't really find its solid place. And when there were, I believe, situations at your work that were challenging or where you felt more scrutinized or questioned, it all kind of came crashing down in anxiety. And so how is now your confidence different than it was before? What are you now relating or rooting your confidence in?
Yeah. I think first and foremost is the understanding of why all of that was happening, and better appreciating it. And that in itself gives you such a sense of kind of a sense of peace and in the opportunity to move on from it. Now I think it's more of, I just view things from a very much from a place of purpose, and recognize when my ego is involved, and when I'm doing things to please others, and my motivations are extrinsic and introjected, and really stop and rethink and reposition myself. And it's not easy. It takes vigilance, and it takes constant focus. But that's where change happens. And all it is just, it's shifting your focus and changing those reoccurring patterns that we've developed over the course of our lives that doesn't serve us. It keeps us safe. There's something adaptive to it in the sense that it's familiar, and it keeps us perceive, the paradox of safe. But it wasn't allowing me to grow. And I knew it. Like, I recognized all of these wonderful things that I was doing professionally, but it was equally as clear that I wasn't getting, there's an incongruence in the level of confidence and satisfaction that I was getting from those things. Everybody else around me was experiencing it, and I was getting rewarded for it. But because it was so much of my motivation was so much of doing it to prove myself to myself, probably more so than myself to others, really made it painful. And it took some profound suffering to get through that. And it's not to say that all of that's evaporated and then it's gone. It still rears its head every now and then, but there's just such a greater understanding and a recognition of it, and a greater appreciation for myself, because it's not so much weighted in other people. And
right.
That's probably the biggest shift.
Well, I think you're modest, because there are a lot of shifts. And I think one of the shifts is also that you really stepped up to now be a coach yourself and to help other people with their issues on confidence and searching for purpose. And when you could say there is certainly also for you a shift from needing an external source to not only provide you with a sense of worthiness, but also provide you with stability, to having now the confidence to be your own boss and help people in a profound way. Didn't that also really, need some confidence and believe in yourself to be able to do that step?
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's darn near poetic the way it all worked out. And I spent a good 8 to 10 years, what I call me searching, really trying to figure myself out. And at the same time, it was this really wonderful combination of figuring myself out, but at the same time being in a position professionally to where I could help others do the same. But there was this really neat switch that happened about, 2 years ago, where everything that I was researching and learning and educating myself on wasn't so much self-focused as it was, it was other focused. It was, I felt like I really had a good grip on myself. And now it's like my focus switched to, I have to share this with others. Because I know from my vocation over the past decade that I was not the only one that, I was not on an island, that there were others that wanted access to this and maybe didn't know how. And so, yeah, I had the opportunity at the beginning of 2018 to step away from the corporate world and from the box that I was in, and to take all of this experience, all of this me searching, and what I call my me HD in thriving, and start sharing it with others as a life coach and consultant. And nothing felt more congruent in my life. And it's just one massive step closer to aligning my outer purpose and my inner purpose. And that's where I feel like I'm at right now.
Well, and that is just such a wonderful example of, doing it really in a way that you first needed to find yourself before you became clear of what is my purpose, what do I really want to contribute in life. And often we do it the other way around, where we are just searching for some meaning in another job, in another city, in another relationship, and we don't do the me searching that you talked about, and therefore we don't really have that trusted relationship with ourselves and that confidence with ourselves. And so what would you say is for you, and you mentioned before, it doesn't really evaporate the challenges we are dealing with, and that's actually a sign that we are still alive, which is good, because I hope I continue to be challenged and learn from those challenges and grow and get triggered into, certain issues that I thought are gone, and then I can hone the skills even more. But what is it for you? What boosts your confidence or stabilizes your confidence the most these days?
I would say what boosts my confidence the most is when I recognize the universe showing up to support what it is that I'm doing, because there is still uncertainty, and there is still the same consequences for example, starting a business and not knowing where your next client's coming from. There's still that uncertainty and still that maybe a little fear. But when your focus is maybe not totally shifted, but at least shared with the universe, and you see, and that sounds woo-woo, but when you get it and you recognize it, it's not woo-woo, it's woo-hoo. It's awesome, because you can see where the world is just supporting, the universe is just supporting you and wants you to be successful. And oftentimes it's us. We are our biggest obstacles, and the obstacles probably has a lot to do in part with ego and old self-limiting beliefs and stored emotions and all those things. And once you have an awareness to that and recognize that and recognize it, but then shift your focus beyond, I think that's where my confidence comes from, and what has allowed me to have the courage to try something new and just follow what feels right and what feels natural.
Now, one thing I can also tell you from my experience when I started with my work and, moving out of academia into being my own boss, my own entrepreneur, yes, I totally get what you're saying in regards to the uncertainty. And it's sometimes more comfortable to know that there is a paycheck coming. But there is something that besides what you said about the universe showing up, which I know is true, that we really need to focus on that belief, which is more confidence in then the totality of your life. And it certainly includes also the confidence in the universe, but the confidence in yourself. What really has helped me very much was when I knew that what I was doing made a difference, and had confidence in that contribution and the confidence in the meaning of my work and the meaning I can have for others, and then knowing that I deserve to have the opportunity to support, to help and guide, and that deservedness to be also in a place where you feel safe financially, where you feel abundant, where you feel that what you give comes also back to you. That kind of deservedness is a form of the confidence. And so I know that you do fantastic work, and I want to actually have you tell the listeners how they can learn more about you and your work. But really remember that. I think that's really important, especially since your business is starting to lift off, just to always keep in mind that what you give deserves to also be seen and to be utilized. There's so many people out there that need your work, and so have that as a part of your confidence.
That means the world to hear you say that, and it's so true. And I think for all of us, it's something that we can owe it to ourselves to constantly work on. And I think it's a direct connection to self-compassion, which I feel like is just paramount to allowing ourselves to be the best version of our being. And you certainly have been a wonderful mentor in that. So I can be reached at archfuston.com or human-better.com. And I work with individuals, I work with organizations on culture and well-being, but I love helping people who who know they have more to give, and they just can't get themselves unstuck and are having a hard time navigating those obstacles. And I'm working with three individuals right now that are, quote, high achievers on paper, but personally and emotionally, they just feel absolutely stuck. And it's so familiar, and it's all very familiar, and many of the same things. And just seeing those awakenings are, talk about meaningful work and helping people realize their truth is, well, that's what you do on a daily basis. And that's, I'm so incredibly fortunate and humbled to be in a position to help others do the same.
Well, thank you so much for sharing what you have been up to and your journey. And what I really find is so inspirational about it, that you actually are now helping others exactly with what you were dealing with, just like I do. And that is just something I believe we can see as a paying forward, finding your confidence. We don't always have to become, coaches or mentors to others. We can use our confidence in other ways, but it is really also then later on paying forward. We find our confidence to find our meaning and purpose in life. And this doesn't have to be just professionally. This can be about making a difference in the community, becoming that son, that daughter, that father, that mother that we really know we can be, but we never allowed ourselves to be. It can be something that we don't even know yet what that confidence then carries through. But there is not just I'm going to work on confidence to feel better about myself. There is, I use this confidence as a fuel to make my life more purposeful, more meaningful, and also more fulfilling. So thank you so much, Art, for calling in.
You're very welcome. Good seeing you.
Bye-bye. Well, we're almost done with the show, unfortunately. As always, it just rushes by. I wish I could do a 2-hour show on a topic. But one thing I want to remind you, I only have 1 minute left, I just got told, that in order to build confidence, you want to also feed your confidence. And to feed your confidence, you want to reflect every day back to you things that you appreciate about yourself. Small things. Don't tell yourself, oh, isn't that normal? Everyone does that. Everyone is, emptying the dishwasher. Everyone is friendly to a homeless person. Everyone is opening the door for someone who has the handfuls and, waiting for that person to enter. No, you just look at yourself and you look at what you appreciate. Again, it's not about comparing. It's not about competing. It's about you seeing yourself as a good, valuable human being who is mindful, who is aware, and who wants to do its best. And that is boosting your confidence because it tells you I'm on the right track and I learn every day a little bit more to love, appreciate, and believe in myself, because you are enough. Until next time, this was Empowerment Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.